I've seen you live, and
Awesome.
I literally have laughed with you, danced with you, cried with you so many times in my car. It's all we listen to. My kids forget, like, we've had Harry Connick, we've had Rob Lowe, they're like, Ben Rector's gonna be on your show today. And I'm like, yeah, you guys. They think
how how old are your kids?
three girls, and they are 5, 8, and 10.
Awesome.
I can't. My heart is literally racing. It's like I haven't done 600 episodes of this show. Anyway, it's enough, right? It's enough. Like, how can you hold everything I'm handing to you? All right, let's talk about you for the next
Okay.
45 minutes.
Okay, awesome.
Um, what a gift you are.
Thank you.
Okay, so people who listen to this show, okay, they come here because they want to find more meaning in their life.
Mhm.
And they kind of know that there's this dream they have, but they don't always give themselves permission to like go after it.
Mhm.
And you did. So I want to know a little bit about how you found yourself, this kid from Oklahoma, and became a rock star. Like, how did that happen?
That's very kind of you. I would say, just to preface, I do think, and I think there are probably a lot of people like this. I'm kind of in an interesting spot because I love music. I love creative stuff, and I'm so thankful to get to do something that I love as a job. But also, I feel like most of the time, the idea of like give up everything, chase your dreams. Like, my family is deeply practical. No one
Right.
is like a musician or is necessarily professionally creative. And that was instilled in me pretty deeply. And so my journey pursuing music never really looked like just up and move to LA with
Right.
nothing going. It really was like little steps one after another. And so and like at the same time, I'm pretty risk averse, but also like this is my job, which is kind of crazy. So I'm not that risk averse, I guess. But in general, it was just little steps. And, you know, I think that there's all sorts of roads to following your dreams and chasing them. But I feel like the one that is most popular is this sort of like against all odds, you move somewhere with nothing going on and you hope to whatever. And I think there's also a very real um way to pursue your dreams, which is just kind of like step by step. And that's kind of what I did. And honestly, like, that's probably the only way that I could have done it with my upbringing. Like, I don't think if I don't know if I could have done it just like stone cold, whatever. And that's not as like always fun or sexy as like, just dropping everything. But I think there's also people who probably are well served, who probably look at a dream and they're like, well, I can't do that, I'm not that kind of person. And I would be like, yeah, you can. Like, it can fit into your personality or the way you're wired. I can always feel a little, or I can sometimes feel like a little bit of a odd man out
Yeah.
among creative people, because I think I still feel kind of practical, and that's not like fun or cool. But I'm, at 35 now, it's like, that's just the way that I am. And that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna do adventurous things or take risks or
Yeah.
whatever. But that's kind of how it happened for me. And I want to like put that out there when I hear people talk about chasing their dreams, like, hey, you can do it like this too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So when Jason Mraz was here, he said his mom worked at Bank of America and his dad built fences. So he did both of those things for a little bit. And so what was going to be it's hard to imagine him as a teller at Bank of America,
Sure.
but like, so he tried it on. He was like, I think I'm just going to go sing in this coffee house in San Diego. What
Right.
would have been what was the other thing that you might have done?
Sure. So my dad worked at banks in Oklahoma, and then my mom was a part-time psychologist, so she worked like on Mondays and Thursdays. Um, and I think what I probably would have, I like entrepreneurial stuff, and while I was in college, I did a commercial real estate internship, and I actually really liked it. And I don't think I wouldn't have been especially good at that, but I enjoyed it. Like, they had me looking at spreadsheets and looking at, like, I don't know, all
Oh
sorts of
my
stuff.
God.
And I didn't feel, I've since like gotten a little bit into that, and I don't feel any sort of special,
Right.
oh my gosh, this is so great. But I probably would have done something pseudo entrepreneurial, whether that was, done real estate or development, or I don't know if I would have like tried to start a small business, but it would
Yeah.
have been something in that realm. And I think the other thing too, I would want to say is when you're like, I couldn't imagine Jason Mraz, doing that. I always want to say, I think there's a little bit of like smoke and mirrors that happens with creative jobs. And I think it's sort of like, oh, it's this magical realm that no one could understand. And I always just want to be like, any creative profession is just a professional sport. That's all it is. And it's
That's
weird that we
interesting.
don't necessarily look at athletes like that. It's not like you're magical. It's like, wow, that person is very gifted and has worked very hard. And I always just feel like, for me,
Yeah.
it's like, could you imagine a world where you do commercial real estate? It's like, I could totally imagine that world, like
Yeah.
100%. And I'm
Yeah.
so thankful that I don't do that I get to do music. But when you say that about Jason Mraz, it's like, he's unbelievably talented. And I think the world would have lost out if he hadn't played music.
Yeah.
But I could totally imagine him being like a very smart, funny, work at
Yeah.
Bank of America guy. Like, that could happen. You know what I mean? And I think in some ways, sometimes with creative stuff, it's almost like, well, like Jason Mraz is Jason Mraz and I'm not. So like he could never work a bank job, but I have to. It's like, no, man,
Right.
he's just a talented guy that worked really hard. That's all it
Right.
is, And so I think it's like there is opportunity for people, you know what I mean?
So what was the moment where you were like, "Oh, but God has this plan. Like this is happening." Like what was that
Um,
moment?
I think it was probably, so I started playing music. I was in a high school band and we played shows around town and mostly our friends came to them. And then in college, I started doing my own thing. And I would say probably sophomore year. So freshman year, I played a ton of shows, mostly on campus. And then people bought this EP that I made and took it home. And then the next year, I was getting a bunch of emails from other campuses that were like, come play the Kappa Kappa Gamma Walkathon, whatever.
Yeah.
And sometime during sophomore year, I started to realize that my friends, not that they weren't coming, but I was like, I don't know anybody at this
Oh,
show. These are just
wow.
strangers.
Yeah.
And so I think that was when I was like, wow, maybe I could really do this because these people don't owe me anything.
Yeah.
They're not like, we're here to support you. They're just like, I'm here because I like this. So I
Yeah.
think probably somewhere maybe late sophomore year, I started to be like, wow, this is kind of on a small scale happening. Um, but I don't know that there was one turning point where I was like, and this is it. It was just a series of events like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
One of the things that I've always had as a ritual for the last several years is before I have to do something scary or go on stage or whatever, is I listen to your song Fear.
That's so
And
awesome.
it is so awesome. It's medicine for me. Like everything you
Awesome.
do is medicine for everybody. You are such a gift. And I listen to that song and I think the lyrics of that song, they're so powerful. And you sort of articulate this moment where you could have turned around and said, this is just so much to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm just gonna keep showing up for whatever's happening here, all of this expansion. And because you are uniquely so humble, like you're there, right? Like
Wow.
you're like big and famous and all that, but you're so grounded in this goodness. And I think a lot of people think that in order to be as as famous or as known as you are, you have to, it costs you your integrity or it costs you. So that song means so much to me. And I want you to shed a little light on that. Like, how were you able to say, no, I'm going to allow this to happen? And I can see a path now where I can stay true to myself and still be taken into this wave.
Man, you were so kind to say all that. And I'm glad you like that song. I think I um I have definitely like struggled with anxiety, and I think part of the deal with music for me is as it grew, I never really was able to repeat a step comfortably. Everything that happened, it was like a new board game. It was like, okay, I learned Monopoly. I
Yeah.
learned how to tour in a van and set stuff up and do all that stuff. Let's do it again. And then, the next tour, it was like, it's not Monopoly, it's Chutes and Ladders now. And I'm like, I
Oh
don't know
my
how to
God.
play Chutes and Ladders. And I care deeply about doing a good job. And it's scary to me to be like, what if you don't do a good job, or what if you look silly or whatever. So I think, especially for the first maybe like, I don't know, 5 or 8 years of my career, it was just a new board game every time.
Mm,
And that kind of changed my experience with music, because instead of what it started out as, which was this sort of joyful, fun thing, it felt very daunting. It felt like I was like climbing a mountain above my skill level all the time. And so I realized that that was becoming like that was my experience with music. And I realized I probably need to readjust how I'm viewing this, because I just can't keep doing this for that much longer. I remember in that song, I'm kind of talking about like, I was sure that I was done. That was a real thing. For a long time, I kept thinking, when I am 30, I'm going to quit music because I just
wow.
can't keep doing this. It's too hard on me. And I think I realized, I was like, hey, I have to figure out how to keep doing this, because I was so sure that it would go away. People would get tired of it
Mm.
or whatever. And then it didn't. And so I was like, okay, now part of my job is figuring out how to find peace and how to enjoy this. And I think I realized that, fear is going to be a natural reaction to vulnerability,
Yeah.
because anytime you put a show on sale or put a record out, there's a very
Yeah.
real chance that people will say, I don't like this that much. I don't like this as much as the other stuff, or I don't like this anymore, or whatever.
Yeah.
And for someone who's anxious, that's daunting.
Yeah.
It's daunting to put yourself out there. So I realized, I was like, okay, if I can't just turn fear off, and if I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to need to learn how to coexist with it, because there's no there's no changing, no matter how many times you've played a show or spoken in front of people or whatever. There's no changing that that's going to be an intense experience. At this point, I don't know how many shows I've played. I have enough muscle
Wow.
memory to know that it's going to go good, but it's still an intense experience. You're still, it's like you
Oof.
could skydive a million times,
Yeah.
and every time you skydive, there's a reality that's like, hey, like, this is going to be intense. My brain is going to tell me this is a dangerous situation. So it's ever since that song, it's a constant state of like, I want to be working on that and finding peace. Yeah, that's kind of where it came from. But it's not, that was a shift in my mind, but it's really more of like, it's like practicing like yoga or running. It's a constant practice for me.
Yeah, that's so like you to be so vulnerable and share all of that. That makes a lot of sense. And I think it helps people to hear, like even Ben Rector just said it. You could skydive a million times. It's still a big deal.
I
It
think
is.
and I think honestly, the more people that I run into that I respect or admire, everybody feels like that. No,
Yeah.
there's no one. I remember I got to write with like a hero of mine a long time ago, and things were kind of at a stage where I was maybe going to tour in a bus, and how does this work? And I was, I just like spilled my guts to this guy about like, I don't know how to do this, and I'm nervous and I'm scared, but I want to do good and I want to whatever. I talked for probably like 30 minutes straight, and I finished expecting him to be like, here's the secrets. And he was just like, yeah, man, that's
It's
it. And I was like, this is
like,
what it's
wait,
going to be
what?
like forever, isn't it? And he was like, yep, welcome. This is it. And I was like, oh, dang.
Damn it.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, has done awesome stuff. And I was expecting him to be like, well, here's how to navigate that. And he's just kind of like, welcome to the club, dude. This is what doing a creative thing at a high level looks like. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So I was in LA for 18 years. We just
Mhm.
left recently, and I had two record deals. I was signed to Interscope, I was signed to Atlantic, dropped both times.
Wow.
And then I wound up licensing music, and then I wound up starting a podcast, which was such a gift. But
Mhm.
what I've seen you do, and my friends in the LA sort of hotel cafe scene, we used to talk about you in the sense that oftentimes when you sign with a label, they have you write with a lot of people,
Mhm.
and it's very easy to lose yourself. It's very easy to
Sure.
start writing things to try to chase some other sound. And the way you write, and you're literally like everyone's best friend from camp. It's like, oh, you know, Ben, he's my best friend, right? It's like, it's the most genuine, open hearted, gorgeous, kind. I'm serious. And everybody feels this way because it's just the truth. How on earth did you go inside the belly of the beast and hold on for dear life and be like, Yeah. So there's this thing called love, and I'm just not gonna give it
Uh,
up. So
I feel like some of that it was really just circumstantial because I think I graduated college in 2009, which I feel like was just the beginning of the tail end, or maybe the middle of the tail end of, you know, I always think about it as the VH1 You Ought to Know era, which was like a
and
lot of
so
it was
not you. It's like
I know, but it was a lot of singer-songwriters with like it was just a ton of cool first records, like cool
right.
production, cool instrumentation, but really catchy. I loved that music. It was Jason Mraz, it was
Mm.
all of those people. But I came around just like probably, I don't know, 4 years too late to just like sign up for that program. And as I was graduating and as things were getting big enough that, we were talking to labels and stuff, it didn't have quite the heat that like people maybe 8 years older than me. It was just like, sign me up, man. Like, let's do it. And so iTunes was taking off. And I essentially was just like, well, I don't know if that's going to be really a viable option for me because we talked to everybody, but I didn't feel great about the teams, and it didn't seem like it was really what was happening, and the deals weren't great. And I was like, I'm just going to do this independently, which was really just because of the time and place that I started really doing it professionally. And I think honestly, it would have been if I had been 8 years older at that time, I probably would have just signed, and it would have been very difficult for me to not just be like, I don't know, yeah, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And because I came along when I did, I think that's a large part of why my creative career looks like it does, because I essentially had to A&R myself. And at no point was there the right partnership to just turn the keys over to somebody else. It was always growing enough that I was like, I think I could maybe run farther on my own than I could with a label at this time. And so I don't know, and I don't know how it would have been different if I had signed with Interscope or Columbia or whoever. But that never felt like the best option for me. And so what ended up happening was just I had to kind of steer my own ship, and I didn't really have people around me telling me this is what you need to do. I was just making it all up. And that I don't think that was coming from a place of like, because I know what's best. It was kind of just a necessity, because we could have signed on I think any of the records, but I just don't think the
Yep.
deals would have been good at all. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. I can't make this work in my head. So basically I just kept going. So I didn't set out to be like, I'm going to be independent forever. It's just, I came along at this really weird time where that was a viable option. And the other options traditionally, just didn't work quite as well. And I think there was just enough of a ball rolling for me that I was like, this is too much to give up for, a whatever percent chance that this just like explodes. In total honesty, I was kind of scared, I always have been, of it just like exploding. I was like, would that do bad things to me?
Right.
Do I want that? Uh that always felt a little bit scary. And I also never had like a perfect teed up opportunity that I think for me to have that opportunity, I would have needed to have been 21 in like 2002 and
Yeah.
not 2000 whenever I was 21. I don't know. Yeah. So that's
Like,
that,
you're
that
like,
that's really it.
I was told there'd be no math. You're like, I'm not here to. So that makes complete sense. And what's so fascinating, there's like we have 27 million downloads of this show. And every
Wow.
single day I get letters from people saying, okay, but how do you meet that person who gives you the break and da 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 da? And it's like, what you just said was, I'm just going to take this sailboat. No, we love your song Sailboat. I'm just going to take this out myself, right? I'm just going to chart my own course. And look what happened. Like, you didn't hinge it all on like, well, if Clive Davis doesn't show up for me and get it, it's like, he doesn't need to get it. I
Mhm.
get it.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. And look what it's done. And you haven't had to compromise the lyrics you write. You haven't had to say things or wear things or be someone that you're not. And it's probably helped you have a better marriage and be a better
Mhm.
dad.
Yeah.
So what do you, what do you say to people? Because that is like a magical power to realize that like God is with you, right? You
Hmm.
got this. Nobody
Hmm.
else knows better than you. But so often people are waiting for someone to come along. So what would you say to them?
I think so. I've actually thought about this a lot, and I think about this is going to be super random and may not make sense, but I think you can work on your like overall magnetism. Like when you see,
Mm,
let me think of somebody. Think about like Willie Nelson, for example.
mm-hmm.
Whether consciously or subconsciously, what he is, he's like, if he was a video game character, like overall magnetism score would be incredibly high. Like you're just like, I have to know more about this
Right.
person, and you're such a thing. So I feel like pretend like creative endeavors or trying to do something creative. It's like you're floating in just like outer space and you're an asteroid, right? You
Mm,
can work on your magnetism score. You can write better and better songs. You can present yourself better. You can, whatever that is. And so you can't really control if you're gonna, if your magnetism is going to just like pull a bunch of small things toward yourself, or if your magnetism is going to like pull you towards a giant asteroid. But you can, let's say your magnetism score right now is like, I'm like a 6 out of 10. It's like, if you can be a 10 out of 10, there's no way this doesn't work a little bit. Worst case scenario would be like me, which is like, my magnetism is pretty high, but I've never flown by an asteroid that was like, this is the sickest asteroid ever. It's like perfect timing at, Columbia Records, and my magnetism just like popped me into the asteroid where it's like, wow, you're a part of this now because your magnetism is so high. I haven't like flown close enough to anything like that at the right time, but just hanging in free space because my magnetism score is high, I'm just like pulling space dust towards me the whole time. And so like that can work, or you can kind of like be at the right place at the right time. And if you're magnetic enough, you get pulled towards something else that's bigger and it helps you. So to me, I would say anybody that's like, how do I do that? I would be like, use
yeah.
all of your energy to become the most magnetic space thing you can, and that is the most you songs and the most you branding, and like improving
Mm,
it. So anytime you're in front of somebody, if it's on a TV show or opening for someone or at an open mic or whatever, if your magnetism score is 10 out of 10, anything you come in contact with, people are going to be like, whoa, dang. And you might not get lucky, you might not have Clive Davis be at the open mic,
mm-hmm.
and that's, you can't do anything about that. But if your magnetism is 9 or 10 out of 10, everybody at that open mic is going to be like, have you heard of this person? This is crazy. So that to me is the only thing you can control, because you can't control whether or not fill in the blank music
Yep.
tycoon
Yep.
is like you're my favorite thing ever, but you can control how magnetic you are. And then every opportunity you get, like if it was a space race, the person who's like 9 out of 10 on magnetism floating through space is just going to draw more things to themselves than 7 out of 10 every time. It's just going to, it's a self-perpetuating thing.
It's one of the coolest things I've ever heard on the show, and I don't think it's random. It makes so much sense, and I love it. I want everyone to go back and rewind and listen to that every morning because it's just like nectar. Like that's pure truth. And I mentioned before, I was like, I'm more nervous to talk to you than Deepak Chopra, but he said he was here a couple weeks ago, and he said that if you say to yourself like, I am Ben Rector, I am Cathy Heller, you have certain images and thoughts and feelings, but if you just say I am, it connects you with like the one I am, which is like this, whatever, whether you want, I say God, some people don't like that, whatever you say. Einstein said it was a unified field, and he
Right.
said, and it's magnetic, right? And we live in this world that's so much more vibration. Talking about how music, literally, I just saw today, my friend Rachel Platten, she just sent me an article that says the music it's healing, literally just listening to sounds, right? It's proven.
Totally.
It was in the LA Times.
Yeah.
I just posted it, right? So that we live in a vibrational world, and that makes so much sense what you just said. It's like it's not outside of you, and there is this, it is a magnet, and
Yeah.
you do have a vibration, and
Mm-hmm.
I you just said it in a way that I feel like people can really like tangibly think about how you could like apply that to your own creative or purpose driven life. That was
And
amazing.
yeah, and I think I understand that it feels probably so daunting if you're outside of a creative field to be like, how do you even begin to get into that? And I would say really how you begin to get into it is become magnetic enough to where every time you get an opportunity, it might not be like world changing for you, but everybody at the coffee shop or everybody at the whatever is like, whoa, what is going on over there? Because if you don't have that kind of like compounding effect, it's just going to be hard to turn that into you're going to need to be incredibly lucky. And to me, it's like, you can't mechanize luck. You can't teach. It's like, go win the lottery, I guess. So I'd be like, if you're serious about wanting to do it, you can raise your magnetism score by like 1/10 of a point every week if you try really hard. And so if you're like, I'm going to spend a year becoming the most magnetic version of whatever I do, every opportunity you get, you'll have a compounding effect of like growth versus like, why isn't it happening? It's like, well, if you're 6 out of 10 magnetism score, it's just going to be hard. And if you're
Yeah.
8 out of 10, it's going to be a lot easier. So
Yeah.
if you can increase
Yeah.
that, it's just going to be easier.
Let's talk about your magnetism, which shows up in so many ways. And one of the things that you do that is, again, so unique to you is like you'll put together a video and you'll invite fans to come with you on roller coasters, or you'll be like, literally, there's been so many times where I'm like, he could have taken the path of being on SNL. He's so funny. Like, he's so genuine and he has such a good time being silly. So that's not typically, again, what songwriters usually do. It's like you almost think that the more morose you are, right? The more serious you are, like the more famous you'll become. You take, when they zig, you're always zagging. You're like, oh, this will be fun. Let's just get a bunch of people together, be silly. Where does that come to you? And how do you allow yourself to co-sign that instead of being like, oh, I think I need to look a certain way and be
I think part of it is I just don't really have the card of morose cool guy to play. It's just not to go to like, no, to go to the magnetism. It's like, I have friends that are just so cool. They just exude coolness, and that is part of their magnetism. They're like, just look at me. It is awesome. And I just don't really have, I've never really had that card. And so you're sort of like, you show up to the whatever competition and it's like, what tricks can you do? And I'm like, I can't do that trick. So like, what other tricks can you do? Like, I could try to be funny or whatever. so I don't know if that's like a, I don't know if that's like a calculated thing as much as it's like, I have to do something, and I feel very uncomfortable being, put me in the back of a convertible in an awesome outfit and shades and have me look cool. My gut is just like, people aren't going to want to watch that because it's just not, I'm not going to be very effective in that setting. I will look uncomfortable and they will be like, you look uncomfortable. So some of it is just that I don't really have that card, the cool musician card to play. So I've had to take inventory of what other things I can do that comfortably. And so humor is a part of that. And some of it, I mean, honestly, the fan thing, part of that was just a creative idea because I was like, I think I would enjoy that. And I think we could pull it off maybe for less money than like a crazy video shoot in the desert.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of like, it sounds fun and doable. And I think we're actually going to be able to do it. So that really and truly, that's not any more complicated than just like, this is the only solution I see for this. It's things I can do and things we can control. So let's do it,
We're going to talk about your new record in 1 second because it's so, talk about magnetism and special and out of the box. It's extraordinary. But before we get to that, I want to talk about how so many of your songs, and I hope I don't cry when I say it because then I can't get the question out. But like, I listen to literally all of your songs, and there's a message that's so clear. Like that song Extraordinary Magic, we've made these montages of like the moments our daughters were born, and I always have that song playing like when I'm in the delivery room, and it's such a beautiful song, right? Like people don't get it. Like we just miss that there's something so special. And that song does such a good job of letting people know it, and you sing it in such a genuine way. And I'm curious, like there's so many moments in your songs that come back to that place. And that's a very unique thing also, where not every artist, like some artists are talking about their breakups or they're talking about journeys that they've gone through. And you talk about lots of things, but there are these songs where it's like, and you matter, right? Like, and you do it in a way where it's not campy. It's like, it just hits. So is that a part of you when you go to sleep at night? is there something that you're hoping that your songs like do for people, or a message? Is there a sort of through line in the work? And does it have anything to do with that?
Um, First, thank you so much. This is just great. I'm gonna just like replay this podcast anytime I'm feeling down.
You're like, she really loves me and sees me. What millions of us do.
I
But go
I
ahead.
I really appreciate it. I think I never want to be too like grandiose. Um, but I do feel like, and I'm not a monk. I only do this for the, the most like perfect reasons.
Right.
There are selfish reasons that I do this. I want to like provide for my family, and I want to like,
Right.
I want people to think that I'm good at it. Like that's definitely part
Right.
of it.
Right.
But I think if I look at what I think is good that I can hopefully do is, I do want people to feel like comforted or feel like there's a hug. Like I picture, I hope people are just like, oh, I feel like seen and I feel at peace. I want it to be like medicinal almost. And I think that, again, I'm not saying that, oh, my music is like so important and it heals people. I don't feel like that, but I do think that I hope that some service I'm providing is just like putting good things out in the world that bring people peace. And that's definitely, I don't think that I'm initially setting out with that objective. I'm not like, I'm going to write a song that will resonate with people,
Right.
but I think I am drawn to things that feel like whole and good and, like a good thing in the world. I'm just drawn to that because I think when I am old and when God's like, "What'd you do out there?" I'd be like, "I did this," you know?
Yeah. That song, The Men That Drive Me Places, like there's been so much pain and stuff in our country, in the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of years. It's
Mm-hmm.
so sad. Like I feel like pain is inevitable. It's a part of
Yeah.
life, but
Mm-hmm.
suffering feels optional. And the amount of suffering for like unnecessary suffering,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like that song, like if we all sat down and listened to that song, it's like that's the point I'm making. It's like you're never making this grand, look at me, it's just it's so just who you are, or like 30,000 feet. Like every song just has that. Like, and I remember sitting with Craig Kalman because for a minute I was signed to Atlantic, and I mentioned my kids before and how much they love you. And he said to me, his son Rye at the time was like 9, and he's like, there's very few artists that I sign. I can take my son to the concert, and I want to be the kind of dad that like makes music that like
Sure.
I can take him.
Yeah.
And what I love about your music is all of my friends, they know what's up. Like we all love you. And oh, his new stuff is coming out. And my kids, right? Kids know when something is like genuine.
Mm.
They love it. And like that,
That's awesome.
that's such a gift, right? That you
Mm-hmm.
can do that. Like it can land
Mm.
in both places. So I just thank you because we have literally, like, I can't even count the hours that we've played. We just went to Blackberry Mountain. We drove from Florida. We've gone
Oh, that
twice.
place is incredible.
Freaking off the
Yeah,
chain.
it's so good.
I saw you posted a picture and I know the scenery. I was like,
Yeah.
he's there. We weren't there at the same time. But the whole way there and back, we've gone twice and we listened to you the entire way there and back. So
That's so cool.
I just want to say thank you for doing that. And I hope that if you guys are listening and you probably know Brand New and you probably know a few, like go listen to these songs and play these songs for your family, because 94% of this audience is women. You guys have kids. Like this should be your go-to playlist. And you have a new record, The Joy of Music, and it's so out of the box. So how much fun was it to make this record? And what was your hope that people would walk away with?
Yeah, it was the most fun I've had. And I think it was the first time that I was able to create something without any expectations, because I essentially I recorded another record, 7 songs before I started this one. And then the pandemic hit and I started to reapproach writing, not with the intent of I want to redo the record, but I sort of like fell into this, like, sort of like hit a vein and was like, whoa, this is this thing that's happening. I think a big part of it was, for the first time, instead of my creativity being like kind of broken up and pulled in different directions with, oh, I got to go play a show and then I got to go do this thing and whatever, and just being free of the expectation. Because I feel like I've definitely felt pressure to be like, oh, I need to make this work. I need to make great stuff. For the first time in the beginning of the pandemic, it was like, I can't do anything. Like I can't shoot a video. I can't play a single show. And
Yeah.
so I was able to just write because I loved it. And I think I just found, I don't know how that happened. It was so fun to make. And for the first time, instead of keeping kind of all the songs in my head and then going and recording them all at the same time, the guy that I worked with some on Magic, we will like produce my stuff together. I was able to, as soon as I started writing a song, I would send him a text and I was like, hey, like, can you, cause he has a studio at his house and he has like a studio. It's like, are you around? Can you record? And so basically as I'm writing it, I'm like making the scratch track and then we're recording it like that evening. And so I was able to like ride the wave from concept to like fruition in the same kind of path.
So
And it was
cool.
just so fun. So it was a great time. And I think for the first time, I'm just all the way excited about a record, which is really fun for me.
Oh my gosh. I know this is like asking you your favorite kid, but is there a favorite song on the record, or like today, does it change every day? Like, do you have one today that's your
I think,
favorite?
I think it just kind of depends on, it depends on what flavor. I think for, I like, there's a song called Heroes that I like a lot because I feel like it touches on a kind of complicated subject of how do you,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, like I grew up as a Christian and I would still consider myself that, but also the way that I see the world is a lot different than it was when I was 16. And I realized
Mm-hmm.
that like I am so nostalgic for being younger because the world is simple when
Yeah.
you're young. And as you get older, it just isn't anymore. And it's really hard to reconcile that with any sort of like belief system because it just gets complicated. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh man, this doesn't make sense because I thought it was this way. And then it's actually way more complicated. And I think anybody that grew up in any kind of faith that gets older deals with those questions. And it's a fun thing for me to get to say because it's like I'm still in there. I'm still trying to figure it out. And I'm still like a part of that, but it's really hard sometimes. And I think that there's not a lot of voices saying that because the people that are like, I'm all in, I go to First Baptist, they're like, this isn't nuanced at all. It's simple. And I want to be like, it's
Right.
not simple. Or there's a lot of people that are like, I used to believe in that and it's not simple. So I'm out now. So I feel like there's not a ton of people I hear like living in that tension of like, hey, like, this doesn't make any sense. And sometimes I'm
Right.
like, is this real at all? Maybe not. I don't know. It
Right.
feels good to say that. I like the song Daughter. That one's fun. I kind of like Joy. It's the last song on the record. It's just like, it's almost like not a hymn, but like, I don't know, it's like a
Mm-hmm.
gospel song almost.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I'm just
No.
excited for people to hear it.
They're all so good. And what you just said, that's yet another very brave thing, growing up in that part of the country. It's
Mhm.
hard to even like say anything other than like, this is the way this is. And I actually was a world religion major. I just like started reading these books in college and I was like, wait, I can get a degree in this. And then I went to Jerusalem and I stayed for 3 years and lived
Wow.
there and learned and studied and just like walked these 3,000-year-old steps. So I'm like a
What a rad
real.
life.
Thanks for saying that. I can't
Yeah.
believe Ben Rector you said that to me, but thank you.
100%.
And so, yeah, I think that's another reason I connect to you. But I do feel like we had Marianne Williamson here a few weeks
Mhm.
ago, and she was like, every wave is connected to every wave, and every wave is connected to the ocean. And
Totally.
so it's like, in a way it's complex, and in a way it's like we're all these waves that are really, it's an illusion to think we're separate, and the ocean
Totally.
is what's connecting us all. So that is God, that
Yeah,
is it.
totally. And I think the difficulty is how do you sort of meld a specific worldview with that kind of complicated truth of like, oh, like it feels weird to me that, you know, 17-year-old me would have been like, well, like everybody who didn't grow
Right.
up in America is kind of out of luck. It's just like, that doesn't seem right, man. That doesn't seem like God to me at all. And then it's like, well,
Yeah.
okay, then what does that mean? It's like, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think a different thing than I used to. And a
Yeah.
lot of people like would think that's scary, but there's, I agree with you. I think it probably is simple, but
Yeah.
it gets complicated when it's like, well, how do you reconcile these things, you know?
Yeah, but if we could put Jesus and Siddhartha and Moses all in a room, they'd just be hugging it out. They'd just be like, yes, yes, yes. And be like, what you said, what you said, what
I,
you said,
yeah,
right? Same,
I
same.
don't think they'd be fist fighting. I
No,
don't
no,
think that's what
no.
would happen.
So many good things. And let's just talk about the fact that Ben Rector pairs up with not just Dave Koz, but Snoop. Like,
Man.
on what planet did you pull this off?
So, I mean, for real, and this is again a fundamentally different headspace that I was in for whatever reasons. Ever since I started working on this record, I usually am like, I don't know, like, is this going to turn out good? Are people going to like this? And for whatever reason on this record, I just had this overwhelming feeling. I was like, this is going to work. And I've never felt like that. And so when I worked on the song Sunday, immediately I was like, I want Snoop Dogg to be on this song. And I think he's going to do it, which is ridiculous. I
He
don't,
did.
that's so counter to the way that I am
And
wired.
he'll do it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I talked to my manager, Greg, and I was like, Greg, I want to get Snoop on this song. And he was like, okay. And I was like, how do we do that? And so it was kind of a saga, but it totally happened. And it is truly wild. And what's funny is I kind of teased it a little bit. And I think people thought that I was maybe joking. And I'm like, I feel like I am joking. My daughter, Jane, who listens, if I'm like listening to a mix revision in the car, she's in the car, we're driving somewhere, and you know, she would occasionally tell people, she tells people everything. She's like, my dad has funny guy Snoop on a song. I was like, he's not new. And Hillary's like, can she tell people that? I was like, I think so. No one's gonna believe her. No one's gonna be like, oh yeah, Snoop Dogg. But it's truly wild, and I'm so pumped that it happened.
What was it like? Like, what? Because this is such a, hard left turn from the world that he's usually in.
Totally.
How did he receive you? Like, what
Yeah.
was that like?
I can tell you exactly what it was like. And so we did it all remotely. It was while he was doing the Olympics. Him and Kevin Hart were commentating for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So basically his manager was like, well, first things first, we have to see if Snoop likes the song, and then we'll talk about the rest of it. I guess he liked the song, because he was like, let's do this. And then we went back and forth trying to work out like, how are we going to pay him? What's that's going to look like? And then the scariest part for me was his manager, after we figured that out, was like, okay, if you want to do this, this is how it goes. Snoop does it one time. There's no redos.
Okay.
He does his thing. And I was like, oh my gosh. And again, 3 years ago, me would have been like, I can't do that. This is expensive, and I'm worried he's not going to be very good or whatever. And Greg was like, you sure you want to do this? And I was just like, we came all this way, man. Let's do it. So we made sure it was going to be clean. I was like, I don't know if Snoop, if you're familiar with my catalog, but it needs to be PG at most. And so there was a little bit of a hiccup, because he did rap about weed, which I was like, it's legal in California, whatever, but I'm not sure like a mom in Kansas wants to hear Snoop rap about National Blunt Day. And so when they finally sent the track to me, I got it at like 7 a.m, and I was like nervous to listen to it. And so his rap initially was, you got me feeling like Chick-fil-A was open on a Sunday, like they legalized green and made it the National Blunt Day. And I was just like, damn it. Gosh, Snoop, why did you say that? And so
just wiped out half my audience.
I know. I was like, I can't use it now. And so I came out right here on this computer microphone, and I was like thinking, how can I fix this? And so basically I rapped over him a couple times.
My God.
And I was worried then. I was like, okay, we fixed it. And Greg was like, we actually can't edit what he said, because that's like, I don't know if we can do that, because he's like, that's what I sent you. You can't change it. So then it was another saga of like, hope they're cool with that. And they ended up being great, and it worked out. But it was hilarious. And I was just like, and he actually, it seems like he actually cared about it. He was about to record it and texted, we counted the bars differently. I think, if the song was like 75 BPM, he was counting as 150. And he said he would do 8 bars. And he was like, this isn't very long. I'll rap longer than this if you want me to. I was like, we can let you rap longer than that if you want to. I think this is probably right, but we'll send you another one. But so I mean, Snoop and I didn't get to hang or anything. This was kind of still a little bit COVID times, but he did a great job. He did all his ad libs. I was editing him. I was like, I'm editing Snoop's ad libs. This is crazy.
It's insane. And like, how cool that you just like had that download. You're like, we're doing this. And then it was, and it's cool. It's going to introduce him to a whole another market that maybe doesn't But him at that halftime show,
It was the best. We
crazy.
took like a couples trip, and we were all watching it, and we were just like
Oh my
yelling when that
God.
happened. We were like, Snoop.
I was like changed by it. Like, talk
100%.
about claiming who your space. He just like walks out.
Oh my
like,
gosh. We were all literally like, I think he might be the most effortlessly cool
Yeah,
person in
exactly.
existence. I mean, it's like there's
Exactly.
not a cooler person. He's just, I mean, it was incredible.
Exactly. Although I don't know, Ben Rector, I'm gonna maybe vote for you. I don't
Wow. That's
like
very kind of you.
your cover of I Want to Dance with Somebody. Like, how does somebody make that cover? What is it, 25 minutes long? And I listen to it over and over. I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever heard. You're like, they say don't end on a cover, but no, I'm not too worried about that. So, and then
Yeah.
it's like, I'm obsessed with you. Like, if you can't tell, you are just the most genuine, life-giving, delicious human that God made. And I'm so here for it.
You are so kind to say that.
I'm just a
I mean it.
reflection of truth. You're the
Wow.
cutest. You're just, and your fam, it's the best. So you have a tour coming up. Finally, we're going to get to see you on tour.
Yes.
Tell us where we can get tickets for your tour.
I would so this is not a plug for my website. I don't care if you spend time on my website or not. I just the ticketing world has gotten weird. A bunch of people will purchase like essentially fake domain names. It's like benrectortour.com and it looks official and it's actually a scam. So
Terrible.
I would say probably go to Ticketmaster. That's going to be like 90% of the shows, but some of the shows are done not through Live Nation, maybe like 3 of the shows. So Ticketmaster is actually selling like StubHub tickets. So I would say just go to my website to the tour section, and you will go to the proper ticketing websites from my website. Because if you just Google like Ben Rector Tour, there's like 8 websites that aren't real websites, and they'll overcharge you or give you fake tickets. So I would just say go to benrectormusic.com, or you could just go to Ticketmaster if you want to.
Just tell us like 3 or 4 of some of the cool cities you're going to be at for people listening.
I'd come to the show in Atlanta. We're playing an awesome venue there. It's called the Amerisbank Amphitheater. I would come to DC. We're playing Wolf Trap, which I've never played before. It's incredible. It's like this giant wooden amphitheater with a wooden ceiling. It's really cool. And then, gosh, I would come. We're playing 2 shows in Salt Lake at the Sandy Amphitheater, I think. And that's a cool outdoor like amphitheater in the mountains. Come to those.
Oh my God, you guys get tickets because I'm going to be there and I'll see you guys at the show. Ben, tell them where you want them to find the record. What's your handle, Instagram, all the things.
Instagram is Ben_Rector. There's a British photographer who is very early on Instagram whose name's Ben Rector. So he got that. I know. We think we can maybe get it back, but at this point it's been so long. So, and after that, like listen to the record wherever you want to listen to it. It's on all the platforms. Amazon pays the most, so you could do that, but honestly just listen to it wherever you want to listen to it.
You're such a gift. Thanks for being you.
This has been a gift to me. I'm walking away from this just like floating. I'm gonna go back inside and like just walk inside and be like, yes, that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, this is what it feels like when you're genuinely loved, and I literally feel so lucky that I can make you feel that way because I am an ambassador for so many people who wish they could sit here and just like share this with you.
This has been super life-giving for me. Probably the best I've felt after doing a podcast. So that's a gift to me. I really appreciate it.
That's the best. Well, I'm gonna DM you and say hello, and
Please do.
I'm always here to support you and just continue on, my friend. God is going to continue to bless this path. It's just, if God has a fridge, your picture's on it. It's like just you. He's just like, that's my guy. That guy.
So
look
awesome.
at him.
That's so kind.
It's the truth. I know it. I know
Thank
it.
you.
Have an amazing day. Thank you for coming.
Too. Take it easy.
Okay, bye.